All right, the time's come to tackle the biggest issue, by far the most important on this machine, which is our steering. So we've got a few issues going on here. The main one is that the hydraulic component of the steering doesn't work. So these are a hydraulically assisted mechanical system. This pump here, the top of the three hydraulic pumps, is your steering pump. Um, I'll give you a look underneath so you can see the steering column there. And down under here, you've got the typical style steering box up here with our linkage coming off and this arm running back to the rear wheels. It's obviously rear wheel steer, it's not articulated. And beneath the steering box is your rotary control valve there with 4 lines coming out of it. So you've got your pressure line, which is this one here. You got your left cylinder, right cylinder, and your return to the tank there. The return to the tank runs up to a pressure relief valve there, through a filter and back into the hydraulic tank. At the back of the machine, you have 2 hydraulic cylinders. This is the cylinder on the left wheel and on the right there, and then your mechanical linkage joins on here, and you've got a tie rod between the 2 sides that runs across the front of the differential there. So at the moment we're trying to steer just off this, and it is a nightmare. You cannot get anywhere. It's barely usable. So I've done some tests. It is the control valve that's given out on this machine, but given the availability of parts and how this system works, I really want to just upgrade to something a little bit more modern. So what we're going to do is fit this Danfoss style rotary control valve steering control unit, and we're going to mount that right on the bottom of this steering column here. So this steering system is going to be removed. We'll make up a bracket and weld it onto the cross member there, obviously in place of this. Control valve's going to go beneath that, and we'll do a hydraulic system installation as well. New lines, we'll have to put a new pressure relief in, and hoping that we can use this pump. We'll have to fix a few issues there, and she's been belted up at some point. You can see where someone's split it apart with a pry bar, a screwdriver or something. But if we can get that pump to work for us, we should be all good. So we're going to get in and pull this system apart now, and we'll have to do some design work to see how we're going to mount this and set up the hydraulic system and all the rest. And we've got to remount our shift and range selection levers. As you can see, they currently run down the steering column there. So a little bit to sort out, but best way to get started is just start ripping it apart. All right, it's the next day here on this machine. We ran out of light. I was working pretty late last night, getting this steering column ready to come out. So what we've got left now is to disconnect all these hydraulic lines off the rotary valve and disconnect our mechanical linkage here, and we should be able to lift out the steering column assembly from the top. So I did go to the local hydraulic supplier yesterday and spend pretty much my life savings on steel JIC caps and plugs. So anyone who's mucked around with hydraulics here in Australia knows that everything is extremely expensive. So I'm hoping that firstly this is JIC, and secondly that I've got the right sizes. So still, despite all that cleaning that we did, it's still so dirty under here, which is just the nature of these older machines. And you can see that hydraulic oil is very contaminated there as well. It's got quite a bit of water in it. Not sure if you can see how milky that is on the side of the clear jug here, but we're gonna have to get that system cleaned right out, which is sort of already planned on doing to some extent. So we'll go right through and drain that out, clean the tank and whatnot. So look at that, we might have done all right there. That seems to be threading up quite nicely. Obviously, if you're not doing a upgrade of sorts, you want to try and get these caps in as quick as possible and not lose your oil and all that kind of thing. But I'm purely using them to not cop oil in the face on this thing, because we're gonna have to fully drain it and all the rest of it anyway, and bleed the air up from scratch. So I'm not too worried about that. All right. So that's the return to tank, which goes straight to the pressure relief valve. I'm going to pull this line off the tank here. I'm going to actually pull this line out completely, so I'm going to pop it off here. Just going to need a couple of spanners. Yes, I am using shifters on these because it's old fittings, it's quick and easy, and I'm not really too phased about all these hoses that are about to get replaced. Oh, that was tight. This one's gonna be a bit of a gusher, I think. Not too bad, not too bad at all. Get that rag, cap him off. Have a look at that. I don't know if you can see that there, but that is thread tape. Don't put thread tape on tapered hydraulic fittings would be a good sounded piece of advice, because as you can see there, it's probably going to end up right through your system, and it's also going to make it leak, believe it or not. Any tapered fitting is designed to seal the matched taper, metal on metal. All you need is good condition, not scored, cleaned tapered surfaces, and you'll get a good seal every time. If you're not getting a good seal, certainly not going to fix it with thread tape, I'll tell you that, or any other kind of sealant. All right, now I'm going to leave that hose there on the valve and pull that right through with the steering column because it's going straight down, and we're not here to do more work than we have to on stuff that's just getting disposed of. I'll just get this cap nipped up there. This other line you can see coming off there, so that's your pressure from the pump comes down. It's only one line off that gear pump, and then you got one line that goes up to your rotary valve, it's the pump inlet, and this one is your load sense line that goes back around to that relief valve. So we're going to be getting rid of this line here on our new system and just running the pressure straight to a relief valve that will mount somewhere down here, and we will just copping dirt and grease in the face there, and that relief valve just goes straight back through the filter, the tank, sort of just tee into our tank line, which I'll show you. I'll do a bit of a schematic so you can see what I'm talking about when we install it. Alright, just trying to see what's going on up here because it's covered in dirt and grease, but spinning the fitting into the valve, so I'm going to come around from the top there and try and support that. There we go. Got him. All right, so these ones I'm pulling off now go back to our cylinders. So the lines, the hose, the rubber hose sections will be replaced, but everywhere on this machine that we've got steel piping, if it's in good condition, we'll reuse all of that and try and keep our hoses as minimal as possible. All right, let's see how we fare here. I mean, it could have gone worse, right? Just a bit on the hands. And it's the wrong size cap, but I should have one. I grabbed a couple of sizes either side of what I thought these fittings were going to be. So hopefully I've got one to suit. Last one. This one up here is the line to our left-hand side cylinders. I'm going to duck my head up over the top so I can possibly see what I'm doing. Maybe. Alright. Once this line comes off, the only thing holding the whole steering column steering box valve assembly, which weighs a fair bit, is the linkage over here. So I'm going to be a little bit careful as this line comes off, because it is going to try and move around a little bit, I think. It feels like this hose is sort of holding it from dropping down to some extent. There we go. Alright, she's coming off there. This one's going to fight us all the way, I think, but it is coming off. Alright. Got a very dirty thread. There we go. Alright, and grab another one of those smaller caps and plugs. And while I'm lying down here, I can actually getting some drips falling on me from the main spool valves up there for the boom and the bucket. So we'll have a look, see what's going on that, because that's leaking a heap of oil, which I did suspect, but I couldn't see anything up there with the amount of dirt and grease that was on there before we washed the machine down. So we got this steering out first, and then we might have a look and see what's going on up there. All right. I'm going to grab some tools now and pull this linkage here out, and that should be us for the removal. So I just got to be a little bit careful pulling this one off, that we don't cop the whole assembly in the face, because there's nothing really holding it after this. I can give you a look at this linkage once it comes off, but all of these ball and socket linkages on this machine, whether it's on the steering system or shift linkages like control valves and stuff like that, they've got a really classic yet effective design, where they've basically got a threaded cap on the back of it that spins in and catches the ball, and a slot through the back where you line that up, put your split pin through, and it can't come out. So you can basically adjust it in as the if you do get any ball wear on the ball or on the seat here, and you can obviously pull it out and pack it with grease if you want to grease it properly. So you don't see that heaps these days, but it's always interesting, the designs you find on these old machines. There we go. All right, you can see there that's ready to lift out. So we're going to go up the top and see if we can fit this thing out through all the lines and everything running up there. I've got no idea what this thing weighs, but it feels very heavy. So we're just going to see if we can ease it up. Because there's a lot of stuff for this, bits for this to get caught on. All right, straighten up the arm off the bottom of the steering box there. And just see if we can start to wiggle this thing out. There we go. All right, that's through the first tight spot. And the second one here. All right, there we have it. Let's get this thing off the machine and we'll have a look at it. All right, we're going to pull our filter and relief valve off this one assembly here. I was planning to pull the battery tray out with these, but we've come across one bolt that is completely seized in there in that back corner that's going to have to be cut out. So, which we will do, but I just want to be able to finish getting this hydraulic system off. So we've got our line disconnected off the filter there. So it's just 4 bolts there, 2 on the relief valve, and we should be able to pull those 2 out as one. So let's give that a go. All right, let's get this thing out of here. There's a bit of weight in it, but nothing we can't handle. Okay, so this is the hydraulic filter from the return side of the steering system, which we've just pulled off the machine. This is the one that you would have seen bolted to the side of the battery tray there. We're going to strip this down and see what we got. It's very unknown as to when this was last looked at and had a filter in it. So be interesting to see what we find in here. It's obviously going to be a little bit difficult to make a conclusion if there's anything of concern, given that we don't know the history. Obviously, if it's been in there for years and years and there's a lot of debris, then it's not as big of an issue as if it was replaced recently and it's full of crap. So we're just going to have a look and see what we find. The oil condition is reasonably poor, which we sort of knew from what we saw in the tank and the system disconnecting it. There's quite a bit of water in it. And it does look like the color of it just appears as though the oil's been mixed. It's a bit hard to sort of say it any better than that. It's just an off color. So this housing should come straight off now. What it looks like, we're going to need a little bit of assistance. All right, I'll bring you in a bit closer here and show you what we got. So in the top of the filter, that right there, not sure how well you can see, I'll come under the light in the shop here. That is rubber, and that will be from a hose breaking down. You can see it all through the top there. It's sitting on top of the filter. In the bowl, pull the spring out of there. Again, come under the light a little bit better here. And aside from that rubber, it's actually quite clean in there. Filter element itself, it's a bit hard to see with the outer layer on at the moment. But the only thing I can really see there is just an astronomical amount of rubber debris in that. So it's not really too much of a concern because we're already planning on going through the whole system. But that is going to be a little bit challenging to get all of that out of the system. So that's all right. We know what we're chasing now. So we'll get this filter cleaned up and put back together with a new element in it and work backwards through the system back to the tank. Which isn't going to come off without making a mess of everything else. So I think that's not going to affect it at all. That's fine. It's perfectly clean. And in the filter head there, got rid of every last little bit of rubber in all the, got into the bypass valve, which is there, and the check valve in the outlet as well. So that's ready to go back together. We've got our new filter here with new seals. So let's get this thing back together.
did want to reseal that because it's pretty ordinary. So we'll do that as we install back onto the machine and connect up hoses. Obviously, it looks quite rough from the outside. We're not going to be going too crazy on paint touch-ups or anything at this stage. The main intent is to get the machine up and running, operational, so we can give it a good shakedown and try and find all the bugs in it. And later on in the piece, when we've got a good, reliable running machine, we can start to have a look at the cosmetics. So for now, that's ready to fit back on. That's going to go onto our modified battery tray. So let's go and get this on the machine.
All right, that's all for this week on the loader. I understand it might look a little bit slow at this stage with the disassembly, but rest assured in the background we've had pretty much all the parts arrive for the electrical system installation this week. We've nearly got all the parts for the hydraulic system. We should have the majority of them within the next couple of days. So in next week's video, you'll really see this thing start to come together and come back to life a little bit. So stay tuned for that, and I appreciate you guys watching.